we, the jury, find the defendant, Kyle H. Rittenhouse, not guilty.
Kyle Rittenhouse speaking out in an exclusive sit-down with our own Tucker Carlson, his first interview since the moment on your screen there, where a jury acquitted him on all charges in the shooting deaths of 2 men during last summer's violent protests in Kenosha, Wisconsin. Rittenhouse, now 18 years old, recounting his trial and how the media and his critics got the facts of the case so wrong.
It's actually quite hysterical how nobody can go back and look at the facts of the case. He crossed state lines, false. He's a white supremacist, false. None of that is true. And the lies that they can just get away with spreading is just sickening, and it's a disgrace to this country.
Those comments come as the CBS show Face the Nation is forced to issue a correction after a reporter claimed Rittenhouse crossed state lines, quote, armed for battle ahead of his deadly encounter. They then went on to admit that he didn't cross state lines with a weapon and that it was not illegal for Rittenhouse to possess that particular gun. Meanwhile, View co-host Whoopi Goldberg making no secret of her feelings about Rittenhouse being found not guilty on all charges. Watch.
Even all the excuses in the world does not change the fact that 3 people got shot. 2 people were murdered. To me, it's murder. I'm sorry.
Trey Gowdy, your thoughts?
I'm torn between, that 99% of me that could really care less what Whoopi Goldberg thinks about the elements of murder and what a jury of 12 did, and just how much politics ruins everything in our culture. Yeah, I spent almost 2 decades in the justice system, and while imperfect, it gets it right more than television commentators or co-hosts on The View or the media. Near as I can tell, the only 12 people in the country who listened to every single witness and examined every piece of evidence concluded unanimously that the state failed to meet its evidentiary burden. That doesn't mean he's innocent. It doesn't mean he didn't do anything wrong. It means the state failed, and you are therefore not guilty. And why people can't accept that? I mean, the jury system is the closest thing to small government they will ever have, and all 12 said the state failed to meet its burden. And why people can't accept that is disappointing and stunning.
Tommy, Trey mentioned small government. Kyle Rittenhouse also weighed in on big bloated government last night. He had this message for President Biden. We'll take a listen and get your thoughts on the other side.
Mr. President, if I could say one thing to you, I would urge you to go back and watch the trial and understand the facts before you make a statement. It's actual malice, defaming my character for him to say something like that.
I got to tell you, it's great that Kyle Rittenhouse is able to come out swinging. And with what happened with the Covington Catholic kid, Nick Salmon, I think Kyle Rittenhouse is now looking at Nick Salmon saying, hey, hold my beer, because he's coming for the media. He has a case to come for the media. This man is also a lot more intelligent than a lot of these media commentators gave him credit for. He's incredibly well-spoken. He explains his case and himself so well. And I think that people like Whoopi Goldberg would do well to maybe actually sit down with someone like Kyle Rittenhouse, hear his side of the story. But to Whoopi, I'd also say this. I wonder if her tone and her feelings would have changed if it was a mob of Trump supporters that were attacking a BLM activist. Would she then look at that BLM activist as a murderer? Well, something tells me she would not, and that is where the problem lies. It's not about justice. It's not about the facts of the case. It's not about the evidence. For these leftists in the media, it is all about the narrative. It's all about race, even where it doesn't exist, and they have to look at anybody who may be a conservative, who may be a Trump supporter, who may just be white, and they have to demonize them, because that's what they've done for so many years. It's worked for them. It's starting to wear off.
That's such a great point, Kaylee. Justice is not blind to the left.
No. And look, Whoopi Goldberg, to me, it's murder. Well, Whoopi, you don't get to decide what murder is. A jury of Kyle Rittenhouse's peers matched the facts to the law and found him to be not guilty on all of those charges. And then she says that one of the aggressors, who Kyle Rittenhouse shot in lawful self-defense, wasn't doing anything. Well, there's literally video evidence of him hitting Kyle Rittenhouse with a skateboard. But this is all about a narrative, to Tommy's point, where MSNBC, the headline they decide to put up is this. This is their takeaway from the Rittenhouse trial. Kyle Rittenhouse trial was designed to protect white conservatives who kill. That is literally the headline that was on MSNBC. But one thing that I'm sure you caught this too, Emily, really interesting to watch Kyle Rittenhouse use the term actual malice. That's the legal standard for defamation, and he used that when characterizing the way President Biden defamed him. Really interesting choice of words. Wonder if his lawyers told him to use those two words.
That's a great point. A use of specificity that unfortunately people on the left refuse to use because it has an absolute meaning. He's gearing up for a fight.
Oh, he absolutely is. And Kyle's mother has actually said they have retained an attorney and they do plan on suing. I just would imagine that list of who is on the list of being sued is pretty long, so they're going to probably figure out which media outlets to go after first, which is why I believe a lot of the media outlets are now trying to sort of backtrack. But what they have done is they have fanned the flames. And like you said, the narrative out there is the fault of these journalists. I don't know if Whoopi Goldberg really knows the case all that well. Perhaps she was turning to her network that she works for and the news and the journalists that are supposed to be reporting on this. Now, CBS, Mark Strassman, just this past Sunday, in fact, reported on the fact that, Kyle Rittenhouse crossed state lines, quote, armed for battle. Okay, we've all known that, number one, he did not cross state lines. That is a fact that was out there from the very beginning of the trial, which is why, as Trey just mentioned, the jurors knew that, okay? Our viewing audience may know that, but the rest of the public in America does not know that. Another thing that he continued to add on is that lots to unpack here. This is a quote: "The country's ongoing moment of racial reckoning, vigilantism, and self-defense claims from armed people who deputize themselves." I mean, this, and CBS is now saying that this is an oversight in language. That's their way of correcting. This is not an oversight in language. This is an oversight in facts. And the sad part of this is that CBS is not the only news outlet to be putting out this misinformation. And there's absolutely zero accountability. And that is the part that is the most frustrating, because now you're going to see these protesters going out on the streets protesting about something they don't even know what the heck they're protesting about.
Yeah, just pointing out on the esteemed Sunday shows, ABC, CBS, they were just rife with misinformation about this guy. And you're right. These facts have been out since day one.
Yes. Exactly. Yeah. And you don't have to be a juror to know it.
Right.
You just actually have to do your research and read.
Yep. And that was part of the conclusion, by the way, of the Sandman court, was that it wasn't just the printing of the misinformation, of the false facts, it was also the amplification, the refusal to rectify that also led to them being held accountable.